Hello Mind Valley community, my name is Scott Lappin. I'm a professional movement coach and I live here in Delray Beach, Boca Raton, Florida. I'd like to share a really transformational experience I had as a young man. So we're going back to college. I'm a sophomore in Minnesota, St. Paul, Minnesota, and the month of January, my college had what they called an interim project that each one of us was allowed to do. And the interim project could be a class that was already being offered on campus, or you could declare and create your own month project, which I kind of tried to do but couldn't really figure anything out. Or you could check out some of the vendors who are coming into the college and offering their work experience internships for the month of January. Well, that's where I found Outward Bound. Outward Bound is known for its wilderness survival experiences. And they were offering a 3-week winter camping survival experience in the boundary waters of Minnesota. Now the boundary waters are right there on the edge of Minnesota and Canada, and yes, in the winter, and it was pretty darn cold. So I was really excited and went up there, and the camp itself was amazing. A very small group of about 8 of us, and our instructors were amazing, and there was so much that I learned about myself and about others through those 3 weeks. But there are three moments that I'd like to share with you that really gave me new insight into who I was and who I could be and what people are like. And the first one was the water rescue. So yeah, water and ice, exactly. Well, this is where I got to do this. Actually, it was a hotly contested placement. I got to be the victim, and I got to be thrown into freezing cold water. As a matter of fact, the lake was 5 foot thick with ice. They had to cut a 6-foot hole in the lake to actually have running water. And so in 12 minutes, my team, my Olsen Brigade, or the team I was part of, in 12 minutes, they had fished me out of that water, were getting my clothes and my skis off, and while that was happening, a couple of them were setting up a tent and putting sleeping bags together, and another couple of them were getting firewood and kindling and starting a fire, and they got me into a sleeping bag, got all my clothes off, I was completely naked, with another person in that bag warming me up, and they got that fire started, and they got me a cup of hot water in my hands in a total of 12 minutes. Now, I had never experienced any kind of teamwork like that ever, and potentially life-saving teamwork. I mean, you know, we were all under control of the situation there. But that was amazing for us. We were extremely elated and very proud of ourselves. The second really cool and self-revelatory experience I had was the solo camp. We were asked to be on our own. After having traversed the trails for a couple of weeks, we were asked to be on our own in a solo camp out on a snowy lake for 3 nights and 4 days. Now, we were responsible for our own shelters, and we were given food. We had to make our own food, create our own water, find our own firewood, and just survive. We were checked on once a day by one of our guides, and they would basically, kind of stand at the end of the lake and go, "Hey, are you okay there? Everything good?" And that was about it. So it was minimal exposure. Now, I was a pretty social kid, you know, I'm 18, 19 years old, and it was pretty hard. It was pretty hard, but by the end of that time, I realized, you know what? I'm okay by myself. And look at this. I'm taking care of myself, and I'm doing all this, and I'm making this work, and I'm organized. You know, I learned a lot about what I had inside of me that could support me. And that was really good. And the last most transformational thing that actually I share this one with people, even now at this point in my life, was an 18-mile marathon on cross-country skis across all of the trails and frozen lakes and pathways that we had been trekking over the last 3 weeks. Now, the night before the marathon, we were gathered together, all about 8 of us. There was 6 guys and 2 girls. And we were briefed on what a marathon was and what we could expect. And our instructors said, you know, a marathon is kind of like life. You're going to experience ups, you're going to experience downs, you're going to experience fast and slow, and you're going to run the gamut of your emotions and your feelings, and whatever you do, keep on going. Just move through it. So we all went to bed pretty excited for the next morning, and morning came and it was a beautiful, snowy, white snowy, blue, mild, gorgeous day. I just remember it was a beautiful day. And we were off, and I immediately found myself, the inexperienced skier as I was, immediately found myself in the back of the pack with the girls while all those other experienced guys took off and were soon out of sight. And I was in a pretty dark space because I was, you know, fairly competitive. And I didn't like that. And I was, you know, kind of thrashing around and trying to get myself, you know, when you try to go too fast and you don't have the capacity to do it, you know what how that is. So, but I pulled out of myself this focus, and I got my brain and my body working really well, and I started getting my groove. And I got my groove, and over the next few hours, now remember this is 18 miles, over the next few hours, everything that our instructors had told us the night before came true. I experienced some of the greatest elation that I felt skiing and just moving and just getting this control, and then in the next instance crushing disappointment, just disgusting anger, you know, crashing headfirst into a snowbank and just splaying myself, and then having someone pass me. Oh, I was so grinded. So I pulled out every ounce of focus, and in the middle of that race, somewhere in the middle of that race, I became possessed. I started to move. I started to actually pass my teammates. There was a couple rest stops. I barely stopped for water. I took off. I moved. I ended up, by the time I ended up and we was back at home base, I was the 3rd person back to return. I was beyond myself with excitement. I was exhausted. I was in a completely different place in my brain and my body than I had ever experienced. That transformation, actually that experience, the whole experience of Outward Bound, but especially that marathon, was a real transformational experience that when I went back to college, it really helped me become more focused in my mind and what it was that I wanted to do, and it really informed me as to who I was as a young man, and I'm really grateful for that. And I'm also grateful for the Mind Valley community, and thank you for letting me share my transformational experiences. I've had many others, but I was so lucky to have those as a young man. So this is Scott Lappin, signing off, looking forward to more learning and growth through Mind Valley, and goodbye from sunny California. Oh, sunny Florida, excuse me.